What's up, everybody? It's Josh coming at you from Nerd Ventures Tower. Holy pepperoni. We need to talk about Thor, Love, and Thunder and some of the new information that's coming out today about, unfortunately, awesome cameos from cool characters that got cut. And this includes Lena Heady as a brand new character, which we'll talk about in a second. But let's first focus on this here. This is the tweet that started it all off for me. When I saw this, I was like, oh no, like what a bummer. In fact, I think I retweeted this and just said, boo. And it says here, Christian Bale says Peter Dinklage and Jeff Goldblum were both cut from Thor, Love, and Thunder. And back here is where you can find it. I believe it's at 2:14. Here, let's check this out. Let's watch this together. Watch his reaction and watch the way he's so enthusiastic about having worked with him.
I got to work with Peter Dinklage. That's not in the final film, but I got to work with him. He's fantastic. I got to work with Jeff Goldblum. He's not in the final film either. As you see, lots of stuff ends up on the cutting room floor, even though it is beautiful, brilliant stuff.
Okay, that kind of stings a little bit because it's not just the fact that he's talking about them being cut, but he's talking about how brilliant they are and how awesome it was to work with them and that it's not in the movie. And I'm sure he didn't mean to cause the kerfuffle that he is causing, but alas, it is happening. People are going crazy about what was going on with this and it being cut, okay? And I want to show you this other thing because Great Phase, one of the new leakers on the scene, has come out and kind of explained what was going on here. So apparently, Gore was going to kill the Grandmaster and he was going to kill Etri, and he's proposing that maybe Marvel wanted to keep them alive at the end of the day. Now look, these are really cool characters. I'm all for Marvel keeping them alive, but dang it all, couldn't you found a way to put them in the movie and not have them be killed? I don't know. I guess that wouldn't have really made sense in the context of Gore, but nonetheless, kind of a bummer that this is happening. And I want to move on to the Lena Heady thing. This was really, really crazy, okay? So she is getting sued by an agency about not getting the commission pay for Thor, Love, and Thunder. It says here, Game of Thrones star Lena Heady is being sued for $1.5 million by her former UK agency over unpaid commission fees relating to a number of projects, including Love and Thunder. But then when this story broke, people basically came out and said that she's not in it. So she was also cut. And what's interesting about this is Great Phase, I believe, actually goes on to explain that she was going to play an older Valkyrie. She was going to be a former Valkyrie. Guess it wasn't Major. Now he's kind of, again, saying like, you know, it's probably not that big of a deal. Whatever, Marvel cut her for a reason. But nonetheless, man, Lena Heady as an older Valkyrie, yes, please. That sounds freaking sick. And unfortunately, there could have been this whole other side of the film doing more with the Valkyries from Asgard and that whole thing. And look, I think real talk, one of the reasons that this is kind of blowing up right now is because Marvel fans are a little bit on edge, in case you couldn't tell. I mean, we just went through Multiverse of Madness. The lead up to that film was filled with all this hype about possible cameos, other people that were coming into the film. And the movie, even though it did have some really crazy cameos, did not have as many as fans were hoping for. And we later found out through various interviews, through reports that came out, that yes, a lot of these different characters and these different actors were considered at least some time during the production of Multiverse of Madness. And Multiverse of Madness also went through an enormous amount of reshoots. I mean, they shot literally a whole nother movie's worth of footage late last year to try to pull this film together. And so I think Marvel fans, after going through that and after Phase 4 coming out a little bit on shaky legs, just a little bit shaky. That when you hear that other cool things were cut from Thor, which by the way has an abnormally short runtime for the MCU, yeah, you can see why fans get a little bit upset. But I gotta say, even though I am a little bit bummed to hear this, I frankly don't think it's that big of a deal, and I still expect Thor, Love, and Thunder to be fantastic. I want to direct your attention to this featurette here that was put out by Fandango today. Check this out, and I'm going somewhere with this, so let's just watch the first, 30 seconds of this.
Here we go, first shot of the day. This guy over here is going to direct just for one day, and then we're going to see how he goes.
Work experience, exciting.
Love and Thunder.
It's just so loud and in your face and flamboyant.
It's always really fun working with Taika.
3, 2, 1, scream! It's been an absolute disaster, but that's just the way it is on my films.
Taika is like a big kid, sort of genius child. This imagination is second to none.
Taika's a very bloody original filmmaker. He's mind-blowingly talented.
Okay, we can stop there. Now listen, the point here is, like, there's a point to showing this, so just listen to the point. The point is, this is Taika. That's his style. He goes crazy. He goes all over the place, and then they tighten it down. They bring it down. This was classically the case on Ragnarok. In a lot of the different interviews about Ragnarok, they talked about how Taika went off script, did a lot of ad-libbing, had a ton of fun, and then they had to do reshoots to kind of pull the film back together. That's kind of a normal process for Marvel and nothing to panic about. And so in a scenario like this, I do imagine there were plenty of things in this movie that were, you know, started, or that they started to go down a particular road in with regards to a certain character, like the Valkyries and maybe Lena Heady and that sort of situation. But then it just ends up not testing well, or it ends up feeling like it's bloating the story. And I think particularly at this moment, they're really trying to tell these really tight stories over at Marvel Studios. Because there's this thing with Marvel, right, where I think Feige simultaneously has his eye on the ball of the particular movies when they release, but he also understands that he's building this sort of library, and he really wants all of the different chapters and all the different books that you go back to revisit when checking out this library to be really on point. Like overall, if you think about it, after some time here, the MCU is going to be just so much content. It's already an enormous amount of content, but it's going to end up being like hundreds of hours of content. And so in the sense of trying to preserve the experience for all time, it is much better to make a much tighter narrative that still fits within this wider vision than to do all the fun things in just one particular project. Now, do I personally hope that Marvel Studios will get back to doing more connective tissue, more cameos, and putting different crazy characters all in these movies? Absolutely. But I don't think these characters being cut is any reason to necessarily panic, even though that's... I mean, frankly, that's kind of what's happening out there online. And frankly, guys, I'm super excited to see Thor Love and Thunder. And from what I've heard, it's going to set the character of Thor into a new story for maybe even Thor 5, which will be even more craziness. I loved Ragnarok. I expect to laugh. I expect to cheer. I expect to have just a really good time. And I think that some of these characters, hopefully, including Lena Heady, will be back in future MCU projects. So I'll be doing Thor next week. Like many of you, we'll watch it. We'll do a breakdown video. I'll do a whole spoiler stream, so make sure you go check out our live streaming channel for that. Smash a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and of course let me know your thoughts about these characters being cut from Thor Love and Thunder in the comment section below.